Hey guys, welcome into another episode of From the Wing. I'm Christian Clark, the Pelicans beat reporter for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. The first week of the NBA season is in the books. The Pelicans are 2-1, wins over the Memphis Grizzlies and New York Knicks, and then kind of got their butts kicked on Monday night at home against the Golden State Warriors. Steph just cooked 42 points in 30 minutes. Throwback kind of Warriors performance, and Chris Paul too. I mean, that was really not a throwback. That was something new. Chris Paul, basically, he was coming off the bench for the second time in his career doing some Chris Paul things. I tweeted out the photo. Chris Paul dapped up Mo Bart before the game, and when I saw that one after the game in our archives, I really laughed. I was like, man, this is just great stuff. Like, I wonder what Chris Paul and Mo Bart's interactions have been like over the years. Like, how well do they know each other?
I mean, I feel like Mo Bart's a little bit of a local legend. I mean, when you are so prominent in local culture that a 4 and 5 year old Adam McCrary crawling around his dad's office memorized your office phone number, and it was the first number I ever committed to memory. And so I dialed it every day when I got to my dad's office and then waited for somebody to answer and hung up because I was a stupid little kid. I mean, the reach, we all grow up knowing one call, that's all, one click. That's it. When he had to adapt and get on the internet, we go to one click. That's it. He gets ripped off. You drive to Mississippi, personal injury guys over there trying to rip him off. Look, got the same color palette on the billboards and everything. He's a local legend. I'm sure they know each other I'm sure they've probably shared a drink or two, would love to hear that there's a story there. But at the same time, like, that's the guy, like any arena that somebody played in for a long time. Guys had courtside seats forever. Like, it's his courtside. We're just visiting. So, he's just a prominent figure on that sideline.
The replies to the tweet I sent of the photo of Mo Bart and Chris Paul together really made me chuckle. One, Paul, that's all, and another one said, "Both scammers, nothing new." Wow, that's how you think of Chris Paul, a scammer. Dang.
I mean, look, so Chris Paul is one of the original small point guard grifters. He did create the half court hesitation, come up on my back foul. Like, he literally he was the guy that invented that and found 50 ways to deploy it to alter his speed and get run up on by an unwitting defender and get to the line. Look, it sucks to see, like, Chris Paul actually has been kind of up and down in the role with Golden State so far, but this was the first time in this iteration of Golden State where he did the role that they brought him in for. And it was a thing that was, while it was new, it was incredibly familiar. It was the same damn thing he did with all the bums that were on the Phoenix Suns, where every big man and every athletic leaper that plays next to Chris Paul, you could be 20 years old, doesn't matter. You could be 36, doesn't matter. Can you jump? Can you run to the rim? Cool. Chris Paul will get you buckets. Do you know how to play basketball? Doesn't matter. Get near the rim when he has the ball and he will take care of you. It was so frustrating to see their backups, who for the last couple of years, that's been the problem. Their secondary rotation, too young, too inexperienced. They still looked like deer out there, just like falling around on the ice, but not when Chris Paul had the ball in his hands. They were just running and jumping and dunking and
I feel like in another lifetime, Chris Paul could have been a great personal injury attorney in the New Orleans area because he will fight for his team. He's pretty ruthless. I think he's definitely about the money. And yeah, man, I mean, he'll just kind of do anything he needs to do to win. I mean, there's all seem like, essential qualities of being successful in that field. Maybe another lifetime. But yeah, this was a pretty humbling loss for the Pelicans. I'm not going to overreact to it or anything like that. I just want to go over some takeaways from the first week of the season. 3 games in the books for our guy Zion, 22 points on 57% shooting, 6 rebounds, about 3 assists, about 3 turnovers per game. I thought he had a excellent game against the Knicks. I thought he was just okay against the Warriors. He was getting a lot of attention. He's got Draymond, he's got Looney. The defense was really tilted towards him. I think overall it's been fairly encouraging from him, and it's been kind of interesting to see he wasn't really talking at all during training camp, and he's starting to loosen up a little bit. I mean, he just seems more comfortable just by being on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is the worst of the games he's played on the offensive end, but there was some good stuff on the defensive end at least. And it looks like he's just kind of like working through stuff. Like he's trying to find his way a little bit, and good things are still happening. But guys are a team like this is committing 3 and 4 guys every time he touches the ball, and he's going through waves of guys, and they're daring other people to shoot him. And he tried to create looks for some people. He got ahead of steam a few times and just didn't finish some of those patented layups that we've seen him make. It was just a rough go. There's a couple of I'm sure you don't want to get into refereeing, and honestly, I don't even want to think about it anymore. But there's tons of sequences, and this is just something he's going to have to deal with and learn how to navigate. There's a million sequences where his first step, the initial perimeter defender rips his arms. There's not ever going to be a call on that because he's too big and it doesn't look like it impedes him. And then he goes into the next guy, and the next guy hits him in the chest while he jumps. And that's never getting called either because he looks like a freight train. Like he's already Shaq in the referee's eyes. And how he navigates that was a problem in this game. How he navigates that, what he does to counter it, that midi we saw a game ago would have been helpful during this game just to create some hesitation in some of these defensive looks he saw. But, he's figuring it out. And, the only thing I'm worried about is himself. If he's out there, I think going into that game, if B.I. is healthy, you think you have a chance. As soon as he's not, there's a pretty good chance you're going to lose to the Golden State Warriors, especially when we try to match their small ball. They're the best to ever do small ball. They recreated small ball. And it feels like whenever we go to like the Larry at the 5 lineup, they just eat us alive. Like Kevon Looney just destroys him. Draymond destroys him. And you can't really go to JV because it doesn't really work. It hasn't worked out yet until we get to a place where Herb and Dyson and Hawkins and everybody, like that's the small lineup, and the small lineup doesn't really contain the slow-footed bigs.
And I don't
think we're going to see anything different.
And I think the small lineup has Trey Murphy in it too. Yeah, I think he's like an essential part of that. Can we get the 6'10" guy who can shoot and dunk all over you in the small lineup? I mean, rebounding was a big story in the Warriors game. Warriors just crushed the Pelicans on the glass. I mean, rebounding is typically a strength for the Pelicans. Was not at all in this game. Look, I'm just not going to read too much into it. They didn't have Brandon Ingram. The Warriors, I think they're just going to be good this year. Steph was playing really well. I mean, they're just better than the Pelicans. So I'm just not going to like read that much into it. I did think it was interesting in that Knicks game. Zion was, I think, pretty special. Like Randall was sitting like 4 or 5 feet off of him, and it's always funny to see defenses play him that way, where it's like, okay, we're going to give you that cushion, and then it like creates this runway for Zion. I mean, he hit like 6 or 7 just preposterous layups. Like he had one of them, I tweeted it out, where he threw the ball up and it like banked off the glass higher than the square, and it went in. I mean, his touch around the rim is pretty incredible. He didn't get as many of those like high degree of difficulty shots to go down against Golden State. It's whatever. I did ask him after that next game. I was like, where does the touch around the rim come from? And he's like, well, I was smaller than a lot of people I was playing with, back then, like as a kid. I guess he's saying like I was kind of a small kid, and my stepdad and I would go to the park and we would work on this stuff. One of the things I've noticed during like the preseason and this first week is it seems like Zion has really tried to emphasize, hey, I worked really hard to get good at this, and I don't just roll out of bed and score 25 points. And my response to that is, I kind of do think you roll out of bed and just score 25 points. And he's even had some teammates talk about that. Like right after his NBA debut, JJ Redick was like, basically like, God, this guy looks terrible in practice. And you watch him warm up, he's missing all these layups. Then the lights turn on and he just hits 4 threes and scores 17 straight in the fourth quarter. Like, I think Zion's a gamer. And I honestly don't, because he's so gifted. I don't even know if he understands like what hard work really is.
I mean, look, this is the story of people's lives. Like, if you were talented in an area, the things that come easy to you, like, you don't just know what it's like for other people. Like, everybody has their talents, and the things that you are the best at, the person next to you is probably not that good at. And if you compare those things, like if we were comparing your ability to investigate a story, use sentence structure to tell a story from your reporting, like, you would do that better than me. I would take twice as long to do what you're doing, and my product would be, if I'm lucky, half as good. That's the story of everybody's lives. And you can't figure out, like, if you're talented, you're talented. You don't know what the bottom is. It might take me 3 days to do something somebody else can do in 10 minutes. And that's story of Zion's life. Like, he can just kind of do this shit. And it's nice to see him like invested in selling the work ethic, but let's show the work ethic, and then maybe we'll start to believe the story a little bit.
Yeah, the Zion threes, he's got I don't know if it's a colorway, but there's like part of the pattern is supposed to look like mud across some of it, and the idea is basically I got it out of the mud. And I do think that's true to like some degree. Like, he's from he's lived in a bunch of small towns in the Carolinas. I think like it was pretty like humble beginnings for him. So I get it from that respect, but it's also like, I know Chris Vernon took a lot of heat from Pelicans fans, but when he did say on his podcast, like, a part I kind of agreed with a little bit. I would just say it made me laugh, and I didn't disagree with it. Was, hey, Chris Vernon basically said, if this guy lost 40 pounds, he might be like the greatest basketball player ever. It's like, if this guy like, I don't know, had like a CJ McCollum level approach to his craft, or like a Steph Curry approach to his craft, or something like that, it's like, this is just clearly one of the, five best players in the game.
But here's the thing. He's so good that it doesn't even need to be that. Give me half of CJ and let's see what that shit is, because that's all NBA stuff right there already. Give him a taste. Let's see what happens when he gets a taste. Let's see what happens when he gets most of a season and he doesn't end the season, on the injured list, and gets a taste of playoff basketball, and see what that does to him. See what happens when the investment in taking care of yourself gets rewarded. Give that man some incentive to do it again and to run it back harder. That's the things that we want to see. But like, it's not even going to take 40 pounds. It doesn't even take CJ or Steph level preparation. There are only like a few psychos that really prep like that. And those are obviously two of them. And thank God CJ did, because he looks great so far this season, and we need it, especially to weather the Trey storm until he's back. But, I'll take, my bar is still very, very low. I don't need, 40 points from Zion. I don't need threes from Zion. I don't need 3 middies a game I'm not asking for any of that. I just want health, and I don't want giant lapses in games where he just doesn't. I don't want to see him not care.
Exactly.
I want to, when you're out there, I want to see you care.
Yeah, and he has.
All I'm asking for.
He has. I think the compete level in these 3 games from him has been pretty good. Like, I've definitely been pleased with it. As we've said over and over, the most important thing right now is just keep playing games. Like, stack a bunch of games together. If you think back to the start of last season, as high as that peak was in December, he kind of didn't look great for like the first 10 to 15 games for him. Obviously it's just a really high bar. It really took him until December to start firing on all cylinders. And when he did, it was like, oh my God, for that 1 month stretch, it was like, this guy belongs in the MVP discussion. So just keep getting those games under your belt. Like, as Coach K said, the guy who actually got something out of him successfully, like, the best way to keep Zion in shape is to play him. It seems like the Pelicans and him are aligned on that. So that's good. Just keep playing, baby. And let's see where we are 2 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now. One of the interesting talking points from Willie Green early in the season, after the win over Memphis, he called Zion and Brandon Ingram the best freaking duo in the NBA. I did think that was interesting because I don't even think Willie Green believes that in his heart of hearts right now that they are the best duo. I took that more as I'm sort of speaking it into existence type thing, and I'm gonna build you up with confidence.
Yeah, it's a mantra. Like this is a mantra, a visualization. This is something for them to think and to process, and also like to push them to demand things of themselves. And it's a good one. Like you can't say that it's not possible, because Zion paired with any all-star capable player could be the best duo in the league. So it is within the realm of possibility. And the only way you find that out, it's also pretty good to have during a year when Brandon Ingram needs to be available and potentially get all NBA so that he can get his next gigantic contract. You need the other half of the best freaking duo available, which is why this game wasn't as much fun as it could have been. But I think that's a great aim. Like, I have no problem with that whatsoever. This isn't like the words of David Griffin past, where we say something, we try and push somebody to a level that we don't actually believe. I think we believe it's possible. I don't think anybody's saying
what did
that
he
it
say
is
about
right
Drew
now.
Holiday before the 2019-20 season?
We're not talking about that.
Okay,
Not that we're not talking about that anymore. That never happened.
it was permission to dominate. That was the phrasing.
Yes.
It was like he needed permission to dominate.
God damn it. I didn't want you to say it. I was just going to hope we could just slide right past that.
Zion and B.I, I give you permission to dominate.
Look, Willie is giving them permission to dominate. And Zion doesn't need any damn permission. Zion takes permission. And I hope that, like, and we've mentioned this before on I think our last episode, but that's one of the things I want to see from him too, is like when he gets into those situations where, this is very much supposed to be like a ball movement, quick twitch offense. If you get into those, few possessions in a row where he doesn't touch the ball, I do want to see him asking for it. I do want to see him yelling at guys and demanding the ball. I want to see him impose his will. Antonio Daniels on the broadcast, I get to bring these features in because you're at the game, but Antonio Daniels on the broadcast, when Zion went in and the backups for the Warriors were still in for about a 2-minute stretch, the starters for the Warriors had just gone out, and I think it was CP and the backups. Immediately, Antonio Daniels started saying Zion needs to be on this ball for this whole 2 minutes. This needs to be him taking advantage, because when you're playing this math game and Steph's playing like he is already, you've got to make up this gap somewhere. So you've got to unload on the backups. And we were never really able to do that. Like, refereeing be damned. The third quarter was a mess, and it sucked the soul out of the game. It made it unenjoyable after that point. But we were probably going to lose this game anyway, just because like Steph was on a heater. Nobody from the Warriors was playing very poorly. Everything Chris Paul was doing with the backups was working. We didn't have a good answer for a lot of things. We certainly didn't have any rebounding, but it could have been a lot closer than it was. The third quarter and the Steph sticking his leg out to nearly rip Hawkins' leg off and potentially hurt himself too, which is the other thing that irritates me. Like, you're endangering your own body and possibly hurting our guy by sticking your leg out like that. And the referee just gobbles his whistle standing right behind it. And from there, like, the next handful of decisions were just a complete mess. And then it's 20 points. And you're not in the third quarter against the Warriors. You expect a 20-point outburst. That is their quarter. It is the stamp of this entire iteration of their existence. The third quarter is their quarter. It's where they pull away, is where they kill people. And you try to weather that, and we just didn't. And then the game wasn't fun. But yeah, they put up a fight for the first half, stayed close. Zion was doing enough. CJ was doing enough. You were getting enough Hawkins. We can get into Hawkins and Matt Ryan. We saw them doing enough. They were making threes. They were keeping us there, but not enough in the second half.
So Brandon Ingram went through shoot around on Monday. And it was apparently fine. And then it sounds like in the time between shoot around and the start of the game, he reported experiencing discomfort in the right knee. Pelicans ruled him out with what they said was right knee soreness about an hour before tip off. Um, I was a little bit surprised when they put out that starting lineup and said Jordan Hawkins is going to be making his start tonight. It almost it reminded me a little bit of Herb Jones, who got the start against the Chicago Bulls. If you remember that one or watch that one, you're a sicko. In his second NBA game, I mean, it's a little different because Herb is a second round pick and Hawkins was, a first round pick. But it did remind me of that a little bit. I liked it. I liked that Willie, kind of went offense first. I thought that Hawkins played pretty well, all things considered. I think what he scored 14 points, hit a couple threes, had that nice one right before halftime. Like my biggest takeaway with him, I guess, is two things. One, he does not look scared, which many rookies do. I think that's a huge positive that like you can just throw him on the floor and the speed of the game does not look overwhelming for him. And two, I think in time, he's going to be able to do more than just shoot the ball at least like a passable level. Like I think what Willie Green likes about him is he's in the right spots. He can put the ball on the floor a little bit. I mean, like he's definitely not a point guard or anything, but like he'll get the ball where it needs to go and he's going to compete on defense. So like in time, I don't think he's just going to be like a guy who sits there and shoots and is a negative in every other aspect of the game.
I already don't think he's a negative. Like I know he's small, and so he will get taken advantage of when he gets larger bodies. And like this is a terrible game for him for that because everybody on the Warriors is 6'6", 220 pounds, and that's going to roast him. But he competes like hell. Like one of the things that you heard from his coach coming into the draft and everything, one of the things you saw at UConn was that he was a feisty defender. He's a small guy and he can get into bad switches and can get pushed around, but he is not a bad defender. He is very similar to CJ in that he is in the right spots and his hands are active and he's trying to do the right things. He's just going to get into matchups sometimes where he's too small to handle it. And honestly, I really believe if he's able to get 10 or 15 pounds on him and just get like to NBA strength level, I think he's going to be a more than passable defender. He works too damn hard. There's a sequence in the Knicks game that ended in a Herb deflection on a three-point attempt that started with Hawkins chasing all up and down the three-point arc. Hartenstein flashes out for a screen. He battles over the top of it until the ball gets kicked to the right. There's only 4 seconds left on the clock. Three gets jacked. Herb's there, tips the ball, turnover. Herb may have gotten the tip ball, may have gotten the block. That turnover was entirely because of Hawkins. That's pretty special off-ball defense and pretty special on-ball working over a screen from a guy like Hartenstein. And he's already done that a handful of times. If you stare at him, like he doesn't stop moving. There's some Rip Hamilton in there in terms of like he just doesn't stop moving. That's going to help him on offense. But one of the things that I think was a little funky that I wanted to see it happen. I wanted to see him throw it out there because it was the Warriors and because we're down BI. We saw a lot of Hawkins and Matt Ryan together, and they end up kind of next to each other on the wing, and they're trying to do like a little two-man game kind of thing where like one of them kicks the ball and you see if the defender comes out and he tries to kick it over and see if one of them's quick open. And it hasn't worked at all in terms of them getting each other open. Not like they need a lot of daylight, but it hasn't worked. But they both played well individually. Matt Ryan looks like he's going to steal somebody's spot and get a real contract. Honestly, like he looks really good. He looks really good for qualify it. He looks really good for filling a desperate shooting hole and pushing like the 13th or 14th guy off the roster.
Yeah, going into this Golden State game, the Pelicans' best 5-man lineup was CJ, Hawkins, Matt Ryan, Herb Jones, and Jonas Valanciunas. So it was a lineup with 3+ shooters plus Herb plus JV. I'm not sure honestly what it was after this Golden State game. We're so early in the season that one game can like really throw that stuff out of whack, but that's what it was after the first 2 games. I think it was like a +11 after those 2 games or something like that. If you just look at like the Pelicans leaders in 3-point attempts, I think that's a huge concern. Are they just getting up enough of them without Trey Murphy in the lineup? CJ McCollum, 26, Matt Ryan, 21, Jordan Hawkins, 15, and then it's Jonas Valanciunas with 10. Like those 2 guys are kind of making the Pelicans passable. I would just say like passable
Yeah.
in terms of just getting up enough 3-point shots. Like I think they took 32 in the first game, 33 in the second game. So like probably not as many as you would want, but they're they're in that range where it's like this is somewhat acceptable thanks to those two guys mainly. You brought up Dan Hurley, who was Jordan Hawkins' college coach at UConn. I got a chance to talk to him right after the draft. Dan Hurley actually coaches you. Like he's not one of these college coaches who's like a used car salesman and is like, this guy's gonna do great in the NBA. Great kid. And the guy is like a complete disaster. Like, he kind of actually tells the truth. And he loves Hawkins, man. And he's like the one thing he told me, he was like, this guy is like he's quiet, but he's like an MFer in a good way. Like he's very competitive.
He looks like he wants to kill people. Like his eyes, it's like a cold blank stare. Like he just wants, it's ice in his veins, polar ice caps in his blood.
Zion's been impressed. I mean, I don't know if you heard the quote from him after the Warriors game, but somebody asked him about Hawkins. He was like, that brother doesn't lack confidence. He said something along those lines. So Zion is definitely, one of the people who is impressed by Hawkins. I mean, look, basketball, it's complicated and it's simple. Like what's a pathway to a pretty decent offense, at least in the regular season? Zion Williamson plus outside shooting. I mean, put like one of the best drive and kick slasher players with a couple guys who can shoot the ball, and like I bet you'll be pretty good on the offensive end.
Here's
So
the
I'm
thing.
with it.
Look, we have Hawkins, who we knew was going to shoot. We have Matt Ryan with surprise 3-point volume and really, really nice competition as a rebounder. And it helps that he has the size that he has. But Matt Ryan has been in camps for plenty of people. Matt Ryan has beaten the Pelicans in a game before with a corner game winner. But he appears, or at least appeared before now, to be just the 3-point specialist guy. He looks like he competes enough to do more than that. And 3-point shooting is so valuable to us that I think he has the potential to cut somebody off kind of the end of that like expanded regular season rotation. I think in games where you need a little bit more 3-point volume because you're playing against a shooting team, I think having him as another one after Trey, I think you go from like, we were worried about having a real shooting gap with CJ and Trey being the bulk of the volume, that now in December and January, thinking about those two and Hawkins, and now Matt Ryan is like that gadget shooter just on the end of the bench that you might need. 3 years ago, that's a guy like Malik Beasley, who's just like, yeah, I don't know if he's good at anything, but Jesus, he can shoot. So that's fun to have. We have one of those weird guys now who is just like down there. He's not going to play every night once Trey's back, but he's down there and what that jumper looks like. Are we going to be like, I think we're going to be an average 3-point shooting team instead of bottom of the league. I really do. I believe it.
And do you mean like in terms of 3-point percentage, makes, attempts? What do you mean?
I think percentage wise, we were already going to be good. The concern was volume, and the concern was volume last year. We were in the top 10 in make percentage last year, but we were in like the bottom 3 of volume. So I think that, as you shoot more, your percentage will go down, but I think we could land in the middle in both. And for us, that'd be a great thing because we should be a team that scores pretty high on our twos, with a gravitational monster that is Zion Williamson landed in from 5 feet above the rim.
Yeah, I just checked. They're 15th in 3-point percentage last year, and they're 29th in attempts. So it was definitely a problem of we're just not getting enough of them up. Jordan Hawkins and Matt Ryan they're going to help there. I still think like 1 week into the season, only 3 games in the books, the defense looks much farther ahead than the offense to me. I think the Pelicans are like in the bottom 5 in points scored per 100 possessions. And again, it's so early that that can change drastically after 1 or 2 games. But I think they've competed, which is different than the preseason, which they didn't really compete at all in a couple of those games. But I still think offensively, this is somewhat of a continuation of what we saw in the preseason of they're still working through some things. And I think they've had moments where they've looked like great on defense. Like their defensive effort against the Knicks was really standout stuff. But I think the starters in particular are still working through issues on the defensive end. Like there's a lot to be ironed out to me, and I'm really curious. Like they've got 3 more games this week. Do those offensive numbers from the starter get a little bit better? Like after these 3 games or something like that.
This is an addition of too early to be concerned, but I have my eyes on it. Certain rotation spots, like I think Willie got a little wild. We really like seeing him go offense first in the starting lineup and seeing Matt Ryan off the bench early. Love that. That is a complete departure from who Willie Green has been as the coach of the Pelicans. Got a little wild when Kaiser Gates comes in as like the third sub. I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to see that all year, much less like, hey, let's just throw him in there because he could shoot. We think he could shoot in the preseason and in college and the G League. So yeah, sure. Throw him out there and see what happens. Now he did not come back in, and that's fine. But dear God, keep him out of the Warriors game. Don't do that in the Warriors game. Just cut those minutes up and give them to a couple more to Hawkins, couple more to Matt Ryan, couple more to Dyson, and call that a day. Do not show me Kaiser Gates. I didn't even know who that guy was when they put up the 15 squares, the Brady Bunch squares of who's on the team this year. That was the picture I looked at, and I was like, who is that? What is that? Who is that guy? I'm like, oh wait, that's the other two-way guy. Oh.
Kaiser Gates, a college teammate of Najee Marshall. They played at Xavier for a year. I think Kaiser was 2 years old, 2 years older than him. Najee said at media day, like, yeah, we're really good friends. We used to go in the car and like sing the ad libs to Migos. I think Kaiser's an Atlanta guy. So I got a laugh out of that one of, picturing Najee Marshall and Kaiser Gates, just like going through Migos songs in the car.
Yeah. And now I'm happy to see them go through Migos songs on the bench together. That's where I'd like to see them do it, on the bench together. I swear to God, I was like, we're not taking this game seriously anymore as soon as he came off the bench. And so things that are like early concerns that I'm sure you don't care about yet. I have my eye on Kyra and I have my eye on Larry. I have not liked anything I've seen really. Kyra just gives you such a single threaded offensive tool and very, very bad defense that I just don't see how he's going to maintain a rotation spot at all. Like, I think when Jose's back, I think he's gone. And I almost wonder if you don't just try to find a restart for him somewhere else because of how unfortunate the development of the last 3 years has been.
I think they've been trying.
And I think they'll be trying some more because I just don't see it.
I think they're trying to do that in a way where they don't have to do the Devontae Graham and attach a second-round pick, or in the case of Devontae, 4 second-round picks.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking to the guy who, like, you can buy seconds for cash. So I don't care about the frugality of not wasting your seconds. Firsts, that's one thing. But, ask OKC about their bajillion seconds. I'm sure you can buy one for $1 million.
Do you know how many baked Alaskas you can buy with $1 million? I actually don't know, but I bet some people who have a lot of power in the Pelicans do.
The other thing is I think Larry's looked like, granted, he wasn't playing before this. Like, he wasn't playing very much because he was coming off of an injury coming into the season. But I was already worried about this last year because he didn't look very good last year, even though he was playing through injury. I really want to see him in the 15 to 20 minute, never exceed 20 minute, don't close for me ever role. And I'm already starting to feel passionate about it in game 3, which I know is stupid and it's not a big enough sample, but those are 2 things. And on the fun side, and I'll start creating this rumor on my own because I have my eye on this. I'm watching a lot of young, messy teams that have talent on them to see like how they're going to shake out. Like, I watched the Spurs and the Rockets and Orlando because I'm just like, what are these going to be? Houston is just a complete dumpster fire. The Spurs are just weirdly, they don't feel like a pop team right now. Like, It doesn't feel like he's put a leash on anybody. And so it's just kind of the Devin Vassell show. And Wemby doesn't get the ball enough. It's strange over there, but they got a lot of stuff that looks like it makes sense. Orlando, I got my eye on you, Wendell. I see you getting shrunken over there. I see your offensive opportunities. I see them dwindling. I see you getting 8 shots in a game. And I'm like, brother, if you want to shoot 3 or 4 threes for me over here and get some shot blocking in, I've seen you do it. I think you fit here. And I'm not necessarily seeing now that, Franz is maturing, Paolo's maturing, even though they didn't add the generational big to Orlando, I see Wendell Carter's stock for Orlando dropping. And I'm just wondering when that phone call could be made, just curious. Always like that guy. And I just really think he can do more than he's doing there.
Okay.
Just going to start that rumor on my own now.
What do you prefer Wendell Carter Jr. to like Clint Capella?
Oh, absolutely. I loathe Clint Capella. Clint Capella is he's JV with like a little bit more physicality. Like I don't really need like lob guy cleanup dude when I don't really have orchestrating point guard and I need athleticism and speed. Okongwu is the guy that I would want off of Atlanta, and that's never happening. So I would rather go the athletic route, go with the guy that's like maybe more of a, what we used to see as a power forward, but that you can get away with at center. And we've seen him do it for years now. I would like to push Wendell Carter to 30 minutes and see what that looks like next to Zion, because Wendell Carter can absolutely go be out on the perimeter. And you're not forcing the issue there. He has been a guy who's made 2 or 3 threes in a game, half the games of a season before.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the big picture storylines from the season, does Griff, cash in some of those picks and really be aggressive and try to make some moves? Still got the first owed from the Lakers that can be used after this season or 2025. The Pelicans can choose there. They've got a 2027 first coming their way from Milwaukee. Got a couple pick swaps. They own all their own first. So, is this the year Griff kind of pushes some chips in? I think a lot of it will depend on how the team he's got right now actually performs. But yeah, Pelicans are 2-1 after 1 week. 3 games coming up here in 4 days. We should know, more about this team after that. Zion Williamson, keep on playing, buddy. If he plays 10 games in a row, I'm going to buy a bell and we are going to ring the durability bell on this show.
I like it. As long as it's not a cowbell, I'm good with any bells, as long as it's not a cowbell. But absolutely, if he plays 10 games, like every 5 games, we'll just ding that sucker. Every 5 games, like, we did it. We made it. If we get to Christmas, he's still playing. We did it. Drop confetti, the whole thing.
You know what? We have to celebrate something. We have to celebrate
Yeah.
something. And I've decided it's going to be Zion Williamson playing in 10 game increments.
Oh, wait till you see what happens when him and B.I have played their 25th game together this year. This place is going to go apeshit.
I hope that happens this year. I truly hope it does.
All right, man. We got what do we have anything to exit on, or we hit roundabout covered the bases there?
What are you going for Halloween tonight? What are you dressing up as?
Well, we're a little bit of a lazy Halloween. So today is my son's first birthday. It is his first Halloween. We have a very cute little lamb costume for him, but we have been moving into this house / planning his birthday party and getting all that situated. So I've got like some throwback costumes. So it's really like whatever's in the house, which as of right now is an inflatable dinosaur and a pretty gratuitous spandex Hulk Hogan that I don't really think the neighborhood wants to see. So it's really between those, or it's this guy, looking like I'm fresh off the country club, like I just left the old racket club and headed out for a quick breeze.
I'm going to be staying in. I'm throwing on the NBA games. I've got a bowl of candy if anybody does come by. Only the good stuff. Reese's.
Full-size Reese's though, right? Yeah, you hear that, guys? Everybody go to Christian's house. He's got the full-size candy bars just hanging out there. He's gonna have the porch lights off because he wants you to have to work for it. It's like the American healthcare system. You don't just get it. You got to really fight for it, but you can earn it. You ring that doorbell, even though the lights are off, you're getting double Reese's.
All right, Adam. Well, enjoy the first birthday. Enjoy Halloween. We will get back together and do this again next week. I'll be on the road. I'll talk to you then.
See you, buddy.